All right, sales pages come in all shapes and sizes, right? So rather than go through one specific approach to a sales page, I'm going to tackle specific sections like the tiered pricing section or the FAQ section and the module breakdown section, right? So in this lesson, I'm going to walk you through some of the Thrive Architect features that I haven't showed you yet and drop some more knowledge bombs that are going to make you fall even harder for this plugin. So let's get busy with our sales page. So the first section I want to show you is the top banner with a countdown. So you see this on a lot of sales pages. It creates that organic, natural, authentic urgency, right? To have a countdown timer right at the top. Now you can use some fancy tools like Deadline Funnel, or you can accomplish this in Thrive. So let me show you how to build this section out. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is add the background section. Make sure it's above this existing section. We'll go ahead and tick this stretch to fit screen width. Make sure that's full screen. And then we'll come down here and apply a background color. Now inside this background section, I'm going to drop a 2-column. Now in the left column, I'm going to add a headline. So I'm going to drop in one that I have saved as a template. And on the right side, I'm going to drop in a countdown timer. I'll style that up a bit and remove the margins. Now I'm going to grab the entire columns and I'm going to come up here and center vertical align it. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just push this disappear down to the second line. Bam, there you go, right? So now we've got this gorgeous countdown timer. Let me save this and show you in the browser. Here you go. So that is pretty slick, right? You can set that urgency on your sales page. You can recreate the same thing that you have to pay $50 to $100 a month to accomplish with those fancy tools like Deadline Funnel, and you can do it in less than a minute with Thrive. All right, so the next section I want to show you is a module breakdown section, right? So if you have a course or a membership site or anything that you're teaching some kind of curriculum, you're going to have these sections where you're breaking down what is going to be taught in the different lessons or sections or modules, whatever you want to call them. So here's the section I want to teach you how to create. Basically, we're going to use icons, paragraphs, and headings. It's pretty basic, but I'm going to show you some cool things. We're going to use some negative margin to accomplish this cool little area right here. And I'm going to show you how to build this out and then just duplicate it. So there's going to be a shit ton of duplicating going on in this section and the following couple sections that we tackle, right? Because we're going to create it once, we're going to get it all dialed in on all screens, and then we're just going to duplicate that shit so you can swap out verbiage and it will take a quarter of the time of building everything out piece by piece. So let me show you how I created this specific module type section. All right, so first thing, as always, we're going to add a new background section. I'll make sure that that is stretched to fit the screen width. And then inside that section, again, I'm going to drop a 2-column. And then I'm going to add 25 pixels of padding on the top and bottom. All right, so next we're going to create this left side. So first we've got this flag icon. So let me add an icon to the left side. Now I'm going to style this up a little bit. So I'm going to change the size to 147. And I'll change the color to my gray. All right, now I'm going to add 2 headlines. So I'm going to add a headline that'll end up being this module line right here. And then I'm going to add another headline that will be the module number. And I'm going to add those below the icon. All right, so let me show you how I got these headlines to show up inside this banner icon. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the icon. I'm going to remove this margin. All right, now I'm going to grab this headline right here. and I'm going to come over and I'm going to apply negative margin. So I played around with this a little bit and I think it is 140 pixels. Bam! That then pulls up all of the elements after that and lines that up, right? So applying negative margin is going to bump up all the items, but it allows you to do cool things like this. So you don't necessarily have to use the flag icon. There's all kinds of icons that'll work with this, but I wanted to show you how you can accomplish this. So I'm going to change these two colors back to white to get that looking all nice and fly the way I want it to. But that is pretty cool, right? So let's start building out this right side section. Now for time saving sake, I'm just gonna duplicate these headlines right here. That's why I sort of added them. And then I'll just drop those below, or drag those below, should I say. All right, so for the time being, I'm actually going to grab this background section that we're working with, and I'm going to apply some bottom margin just so I can scroll that section up and you're not watching me do everything at the bottom of the screen. There we go. So I'll go ahead and remove that when we're done. All right, so now to get these sections right here, let me show you how to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a content box, right? So I want everything to be inside a content box so that I can duplicate all the contents and not have to duplicate the icon and then the blurb. So if you start with the content box, then you can duplicate everything inside. So in the content box, we're going to add an icon. And now I'll style that up a bit. All right, so now I have my icon and my paragraph. So let's grab the icon. I'm actually going to remove this margin right here just for the time being. And now I'm going to come down to alignment. I'm going to left align it. And then if this is closed, you want the advanced section. So if it's not opened, go ahead and open that and click right here to float. Look what happens. The paragraph will float around the icon. Now I can apply some margin to get this a little bit of breathing room. So I'll apply maybe 10. There we go. That looks amazing. So now I'm going to drag this column over. You can see I've given a lot less space to this column and much more space to this. And all you need to do is drag your column over. So we'll go ahead and drag that. All right, so now what I want to do is save this and check it out in the browser. So we're going to do some sanity checks. I want to make sure that everything is formatted the way I want it on desktop, tablet, and mobile before I start duplicating things. All right, so if it's not formatted and we start duplicating it, we're not saving ourselves any work because we're still going to have to go piece by piece, element by element, and start tweaking things. If we get it all dialed in and then duplicate it, there is no work but swapping out the actual copy. So let me save this and view it in the browser. All right, so here's that page. Here's the section that's already built out, and here's the one that we're building out. So right away, I know I want to decrease the width a little bit, but otherwise on desktop, this is looking pretty good. So let's go back to Thrive and make some adjustments. All right, so I'm going to grab this columns section, right? We don't need the background section. We just need the columns section. So I'm going to grab the columns, come down here to the max width, and I'm going to reduce this a bit. So maybe 950. And I'll go ahead and center that. All right, perfect. Now I'm also noticing that this flag and icon is a little bit high. So I'm going to start adjusting things, right? So I'll grab this column, right? So I don't need to grab the icon itself, but I'm going to grab the whole column and apply some top margin so that the top of this icon is closer to the top of this headline. And how about 15? All right, that looks good. So now let's view this on tablet and mobile and make sure that everything looks good. So on tablet, you see this column is back up a little bit high. So again, we'll grab the column, make sure that we're in the column, and we'll apply a little bit more top margin. So maybe 35. Nope, still not enough. How about 50? Perfect. That looks great on tablet. I'm liking the spacing and on all of this. So let's move on to mobile. Check that out really quick. All right, so here's the section. I like that. It's going to stack them on mobile, which is perfect. That's what I want. I like these headlines. This bullet looks good. I'm going to apply some padding to this right here, just the content box. And again, we don't have to do it to the paragraph. We can do it to the whole content box. So I'm going to give this, it's only got one. I'm going to give it maybe 15 on the left and 15 on the right. There we go. Now it's not quite butted up to the edge of the screen, and I like that much better. So let's head back to the desktop. All right, so now I can duplicate this content box. Make sure you're in the content box level. I'm going to duplicate it once, and I'm going to make sure there's no spacing issues. So there's a little bit more space here than I'd like. So let's go down to the margin. You can see there's 20 pixel margin on the bottom. I'm going to reduce that, and I'm going to do the same thing since I just duplicated this. I'm going to make sure I'm in the content box, and I'm going to do the same thing for that one. Now I like that much better. Now that I've got the spacing worked out, I can duplicate this again and duplicate it again. All right, now that I've got my 4, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do one last sanity check. So I'm going to check on tablet, make sure everything looks good. So that was the first section that's already done. This is, excuse me, the section we're working with. Now I am noticing that this is butting up to the side. So what I can do is grab the whole columns feature and just apply some padding or margin, either one, on the right side. So I'll go ahead and say 25. That gives a little room. I'm liking that much better. Now let's do one last check on mobile. All right, so I'm going to give this a little bit of padding so it's not so close to this element right here. So I can, again, give this padding or margin. I'll go ahead and give it, so we've got 50 on margin. Let's go with 50 on padding, maybe just 25. There we go. Much better. I like that spacing. I'm loving the spacing between all this. So this section looks gravy, right? I am totally in love. I'm going to head back to the desktop. Now this whole module 1 section is done. Now one last thing, remember I applied that margin to the bottom, so we'll go to the background section and we'll remove that before we duplicate it. All right, perfect. Now this is all ready, it's all dialed in. All you need to do for the next module, so let's say now we're starting module 2, duplicate the entire background section. Now, we can address any spacing issues if there were any issues. I'm liking the 25 pixels that we've got on top and bottom, so it's creating 50 pixels of width. I'm loving that. So we just change out verbiage, right? Change out the module number. You can even, I love doing this on my sales page, I love alternating the background section. So one module section will be white, the next will be maybe a light gray. So for the second section, I could come down to the background style and I could add a background color. So let's do something real light. There we go. Apply. Now to create your third module, you can come back up to the white version, duplicate that, and drag this down. There we go, right below this. And bam, now you've got this. So now you can say module 3, and maybe this is web design, and you change out your bullet points. That is how easy it is to create these module sections. It's more work to do the copying and pasting than anything else when you do it this way. So again, you want to check before you start duplicating sections. You're just going to do that sanity check, right? So I'm not going to bore you with doing that every time, but that's what you want to get in the habit of doing. You're going to get something dialed in on every device, and then you're just going to duplicate it. I mean, isn't that a gorgeous section? Bam! All right, let's move on to the next section. All right, the next section I want to show you is a tiered pricing section right here. So a lot of us have, 3 different price points for our courses or our memberships, or if you have a product or software or app, a lot of times we have these different levels that you can buy into. So there's two different approaches for this type of section that I want to show you. This first one that you're seeing right here was created with the table feature. So that's what I'm going to show you first. I wanted to show you the end product so you sort of know what we're working towards. I'm not going to build the whole thing out to completion like this is, so that's also why I wanted you to see this. But let me show you exactly how this is done. So as always, the first thing we're going to do is drop another background section. Make sure that's full screen. And then inside that section, we're going to search out the table feature and drop that in this section. And I'm going to select a 5x4 table for right now. All right, so right now I'm going to apply some margin on the top and bottom. Again, just to make this a little bit more readable, I probably will end up removing all of that later on. There we go. So now we've got a little more breathing room. Now this table feature is awesome. So let me click on the table, scroll up top, you've got all kinds of features. So you've got the cell padding, which is this area in between your actual cells. I love this. If you click this, you can actually make your table cells sortable. Now this isn't really applicable for something like a pricing table on a sales page, but this is a great feature if you have tables in your blog posts or on other pages. I love that they give us the ability to make our tables searchable for our visitors. So I'm going to untick that. You've got vertical align. You can choose the color of just the header row, right? So this top row. And you can choose the color for the cell areas. Now I love this even more. If you come down to the advanced section, you can actually specify just the color on even rows or odd rows, and I love this effect. So you can see it right here, right? So only every other row. So let's go ahead and apply that light color to the odd rows. So I'll go ahead and search out that light color again and apply that. There we go. Now you've also got table borders. So this main border right here is the border around the entire table. If you click right here, apply inner border, now you've got these two options right here. So you've got the header border, so this is controlling just the border around your header, your first row, and you can control the border on the cell area. So we'll be playing with these, but first, let's add some content to this table. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add these headlines and show you how to accomplish this area right here. So first thing I'm going to do is drop in one of my H2 headings in this first cell right here. All right, so I'm going to do some styling. So I'm going to make this white, increase the size. I'm going to apply a background color. And I'm also going to apply 25 pixels of padding on the top and the bottom. All right, perfect. Now guess what we're going to do? We're just going to duplicate this shit, right? So I'm going to duplicate it twice, grab this, and just drag them in the other header sections. Now you can just change the background color and the verbiage. All right, so now you see this area right here. I don't want this space between my headers. So if I come back up, make sure I'm in the table element, come back up, that is cell padding. Remember there was 5 pixels. If we dial that down to 0, bam, now everything is nice and touching. That's what we like, touching, touching, touching. All right, next, let's get those labels over here. So I'm going to drop in one of my H3 headings from my templates. All right, perfect. Now all we have to do again is, you got it, duplicate, 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 and drag those in the next cells that you've got underneath. Change out those description names and you're good to go. All right, so the next thing I want to do is add this first line was some pricing and just some paragraph elements. So I'm just going to duplicate those from up here just for time saving sake. Nice. All right, and then the last thing we've got content-wise are these icons, right? So same thing. We're just going to search the icon, oops, drag that in to our first cell, style it up the way we want it, and then duplicate away. Now, once I duplicate this, I can just click that and change that to the check mark if that's what I need, right? So you could just fill in the icon in all of the boxes that you need and then change the ones that you need, or you can create both types and just duplicate what you need for what cell. Now you can see we have a lot more rows on this table that I've fully built out. Now let's say you need to add some rows. It's super duper easy, all right? So make sure you're on the table icon. You're going to come over to the side menu and click Manage Cells, this button right here. Now this is more like Excel. You can actually drag things and control them, right? So let's say after this row, I want to, so right here you see you can remove column and remove row, or down here you can insert columns before or after and insert rows. So let's say I want a couple rows after this row. So I can just keep inserting them, insert, insert, and let's insert one more. When you're done doing everything that you want to do, and also you can come up here and add rows and columns, you can split. So if I chose two of these, I can merge those. Pretty much the basics that you can do in Excel, you can do right here. Okay, so when you're done doing that, whatever styling, adding, deleting, whatever you need, then go ahead and hit close. All right, so again, we can duplicate these and drag those down, duplicate this, drag that down. It's really not tough to add those. All right, the last element we have are these buttons, but before we tackle that, how about we apply the outline or the borders to the inside columns? So I don't want a border on the outside, right, on the whole table, and I don't want one on the header. So I'm just going to apply the border to the cell area. So remember, if you click the table, come over, scroll down to the table border section, right here under cell border, I'm just going to dial that up to 1 pixel. Okay, so it's got these innards, as I call them. It's got the border around that, but it does not have it around the header or the whole table, which would put the header right, or which would put the border, excuse me, right here, and I don't want that, which is why I didn't apply the table border. Let me show you. It's right there. Now we've got that border and it makes that cell look wonky. If you just don't include a table border, you can get this effect. All right, so to add these buttons, I'm just going to actually duplicate these from up here because I've shown you enough times how to style and do all kinds of awesome things with your buttons. So I'll go ahead and drag these down here on Warp Speed for you. All right, now to get this cell to be a lot taller than it was, all I did was apply margin top and bottom to the button itself, right? So now this cell is much larger than these ones. Now I'm going to click inside the table and remove these 2 rows right here. And there you have it, right? So I like to have this middle section, stand out a little bit. So that's why I use a different button. I have it the brightest color in my palette, and that really makes that particular one pop. So let me save this. I want to show you the one that I've built out in the browser. Bam, there it is, right? I think that looks sexy as fuck. Call me crazy. All right, so back in Thrive, one last thing I definitely want you to understand about tables. So let's go to the tablet. Now everything on tablet looks pretty good. If you had more columns, let's say there were 6 columns, things are gonna get a little wonky. Let me show you what happens because that's exactly what happens on mobile. All right, so if we scroll down to this table, what happens is that you have a scroll bar here, okay? There is a feature, let me show you. I'm gonna grab the table. There is this feature right here once you're on mobile to say create mobile responsive table. Let me show you. This is what happens, okay? I have not had luck on making this work at all. It would be hours of work for me to style this and manipulate this so that it showed up right. I just don't have time or patience for that. Let me click off of that. And I'm really not happy with the scroll bar, especially on an individual element. It just doesn't look clean enough for me. So I want to show you a workaround, which is the second approach to this sort of tiered pricing section. So let me go back to the desktop and let's build out this second approach and I'll show you what you can do. if you want to use this type of table on your desktop and tablet type devices, and then use the second approach only on mobile. I'm going to show you that workaround, or of course you can use the second approach on all the devices. So let me load that final look of this second approach so you know what we're working towards, and then I'll show you how to build it out. All right, here's the second approach to a tiered pricing type section. And this is using the columns feature. So you see this middle section, it's a little bit taller, it kind of pops out. It definitely stands out, and I love the look and design of this. So let me show you exactly how I built this out. And again, I'm just gonna duplicate a lot of these features so that I'm not sucking up a lot of time, and I'll do a lot of stuff on warp speed. Mostly I just wanna show you how to structure this columns feature out. So as always, I'm gonna create a background section, and I'm gonna add a 3-column feature this time. All right, so we're going to work this exactly how we've been working everything out. I'm going to build this first column out, and then I'm just going to duplicate it. Okay, so let's start building this out. So to get this header area again, I'm going to add a background section, or I'm sorry, a content box this time, and these headings. So I'm going to do this on warp speed, so I'm not boring you. All right, perfect. So the next section is another content box. So I'm going to add one more content box, and then I'm going to add this headline, this subtle border, this paragraph element, and the button. Now, in the interest of saving time, I'm just going to grab the one up here, and I'm going to duplicate it and drag it down. All right, bam, that looks fantastic. All right, now I kind of brushed over this. Let me remove this and I'll show you how you can add the credit card. So that is actually a feature. So if you search out credit card, I'll just drag that below the button. Now you've got styling, right? So if you click this style, you've got 4 different types of credit cards that you can use, not necessarily the type of credit card, but the design style, so to speak. I'm going to select this grayscale, apply that. Right here, if you click this pencil icon, you can select which credit cards or accounts you want listed, and you can control the size. So I'll increase the size a little bit, and you can also control the color. So I'm going to change this to something lighter, apply that, and come down and make sure that that is centered. All right, now the last thing I want to do is again remove that gutter, remove that space. So if I make sure I'm in the columns feature, I come up all the way to the top right here, gutter width. So right now we've got 15 pixels in between. I'm going to reduce that down to 0, and you see now there is no space. Okay, so the last sanity check is to check the devices and make sure that everything looks good on that particular column. All right, so now what I can do is I can select these content boxes that I created and duplicate them. Now I can swap out this button for the button that I want. I'm just going to duplicate that from up here and apply that border again to the whole column, right? So come down to the border and do the same thing for this third one. That looks so good. All right, so the last step we have is to give it this kind of pop out effect, right? Super easy to do. We're going to grab the middle column. Again, make sure that we've got the whole column. I'm going to come up to the layout section and apply negative margin, right? So let's say 25, and then I'm just going to come down to the shadow section and apply a drop shadow. I was going to say outer shadow, a drop shadow. Maybe dial that down to 5. And bam, look at that. Now let's check it on the devices. So go to tablet. Now it is stacking, right? Because there's 3 of them and it's it's too wide for the screen, right? So it's got to stack it. So you can leave it like that. Obviously, I do not like that. So I'm going to grab the entire columns section. Okay. I'm going to unclick the wrap. Check that out. Now, maybe you like that, maybe you don't. You can remove the wrap. Let's say I didn't like that. I want to apply the wrap. And now what I'm going to do is adjust this minimum column width. So I can adjust this down to something that I like, right? So now all of them are stacking like that. Bear with me. Now what I can do is come down here to this section right here, max width, and I can dial that back down, okay, and center that. So it's totally up to you what you want. You can then start adjusting things, right? So we had a little bit extra padding or margin that you can remove, right? So this had 40, so we can dial that down to 0. You could grab the content box, give that a little margin so it's not touching this top box. You know, just like we've done in all the other lessons. You just decide what it is that you like the best look-wise and go for it, right? So that's tablet. Let's tackle mobile, and that looks gorgeous, right? Again, I would definitely play with the spacing a little bit, but all in all, I dig that. So let me show you this in the browser. I'm going to save this and show you real quick. And here it is. I mean, tell me that that does not pop and that does not look professional grade. And let me tell you, if you had to hand code this shit, it'd be a lot of fucking work. So I love that Thrive makes it that easy. Now let me show you. I want to go back to Thrive and I want to show you what I meant. So let's say you love this first approach of the tiered pricing, but again, it just doesn't work on mobile and you want to instead have these stacked. Now again, you can obviously use this approach right here on all the devices, but I want to show you some workarounds because again, it may not always just work out the way you want, and you're going to have to use sort of two different elements, maybe one on the tablet and desktop and then another on mobile. Sometimes that does happen, and it's actually really easy to remedy. So let's head back to Thrive and I'll show you what you can do. All right, so let's go to the mobile view. Right, so right now we've got this pricing table right here, this first one that we created, and then right underneath we've got these stacked up columns. Okay, so again, we want them only on mobile. Okay, so we do not want this pricing table to show up on mobile, and we do not want this one to show up on tablet or desktop. So you can go to the first one, right? So the first one is the one we want on desktop and tablet, but not on mobile. So you're going to make sure that you select the whole background section that's wrapped around. And now you're going to come down to that responsive area in your menu, and you're going to say, I do not want this on the mobile, which is the third device. So you've got desktop, tablet, mobile. I do not want that to appear on mobile. Okay, now you can come down to this background section and you can say, I do not want this one on desktop or tablet. Okay, so we're on tablet. We've got the right one. We've got this first approach. If I go to mobile, you will not see that. You will only see the second one that we created. Okay, now if I go to desktop, again, you're not going to see that second one that I created. Now, sometimes things can get confusing because you're on a device and you don't know what's actually there, even though it's not visible, where it falls on the page. All you need to do to see everything, not just what's appearing in the browser view, but everything that you've created, you're just going to tick this right here. So show all hidden items. So now we've got that back. We can see if we click on that, it is only visible on mobile. Okay, so that's the super easy workaround. It's literally 3 buttons. Choose the background section that you want. That's why everything always needs to be wrapped around either a content box or a background section. But you're going to grab that whole section or that whole content box, and then you're just going to choose, okay, yeah, I want this on mobile and I want this on tablet and desktop. Whatever is clever for you, but that is another cool trick and a cool thing that you can do with Thrive. So let's call this section a wrap and move on to the next. All right, so the last section I want to show you is the FAQs, right? That is a main staple of a sales page, all right? And it is so easy with the toggle feature. So I'm going to add a background section, make sure that's full width. We should make a drinking game out of how many times I say that just in this lesson alone. And again, I'm going to apply some bottom margin just so I can bump this up and show you. So it's not at the bottom of the screen. All right, so the toggle feature. So let's search that out. And it allows you to have those cool drop-down type of features, right? So here's the toggle, right? You'd have your FAQ right here. When do I get access to the course, right? So we can style that up. Let me apply my custom font. All right, so if we click on the toggle, you can adjust the hover color. So let's go ahead and make that my marigold. And then down here, this is where this content toggle, you're going to drop a paragraph or a heading. You can drop any of the features from Thrive, but if we're talking in the context of FAQs, we're kind of looking for a paragraph. So I've already saved an FAQ blurb. I'm just going to drag that in from my template section. All right, so that's the toggle. That's how easy it is to create these. Now I want to show you one thing. You can, if we're clicked on the toggle, you can add a new toggle. Now I'm going to duplicate this first so I can work with an individual one. I want to show you what happens. So I'm on this original toggle and I added a new toggle. What happens is it just butts up right next to it, and until you hover, it can look a little confusing. I don't know. My design eye likes a little bit of white space in between like you see right here. So my preferred approach is that I just duplicate the actual toggle, right? So I'm going to duplicate this one and duplicate again. I'm going to delete this. Now I like this, right? So it definitely looks like they're individual. It's just my preference. You can certainly select a toggle and just keep adding toggles, or you can duplicate it. Again, whatever's clever. So let me save this and show you in the browser. All right, so here are those toggles. You can see you can hover over them and then it grabs that hover color. If you click on any of them, it will drop down with your answer. And then again, if your visitor clicks, it will expand back up. So this is a pretty cool feature. It makes FAQs so easy and it looks really slick with all this kind of responsive hovering and all that good stuff. All right, so I've showed you the countdown, how to create this amazing scarcity-driven banner. I've showed you tons of ways of how to create this gorgeous header type section. I've shown you some new creative ways to use negative margin and icons. And this is also a great way to do your bio section. So if you had your image, you could left align that and then have your copy wrapping around that. That's a gorgeous bio section. You can create these super simple module areas, right? I've showed you two approaches to creating really gorgeous 3-tiered, or this could go on 4, 5-tier, 2-tier, but you get the idea. I've showed you two different approaches to this, both gorgeous, and they work, with the exception of mobile for here, on just about every device, and this epic ways to take care of FAQs. So you truly have everything that you need to create amazing sales pages. The kind that pop, profit, outperform, and position you in a league of your own. All right, this series has been an absolute pleasure. I love geeking out on Thrive Architect, if you couldn't tell. So it's been an absolute blast being able to show you how exciting this $67 plugin is. I mean, this is web design changing. I always hate to say game changing or life changing, but I am willing to say this is going to change your web design game. You've seen it now. We're 8 lessons into this and I have shown you so much. So I cannot wait for you to get out there and start creating pages that pop. As always, my final plea, if you haven't grabbed your copy of the Thrive Architect WordPress plugin, I would be drunk with appreciation if you purchased through my affiliate link. I've got that linked below or to the side for you, depending on where you're watching this. And as an added bonus, if you purchase your Thrive Architect license through my affiliate link, I'm also going to gift you a premium StudioPress theme. All right, that's going to run you with Genesis, which I'm providing you, the framework that StudioPress themes run on. That's going to run you anywhere from 97 to 197 bucks, all right, depending on what theme that you choose. I am going to gift you the theme of your choice. Third-party themes are not included, so that you truly have everything you need to crush your web design game. All right, you're going to have a premium theme. You don't need to worry about breaking. StudioPress is the shit. And on top of that, you're going to have this WordPress visual editor, Thrive Architect, that is going to obliterate any theme limitations because even the greats come with them, but not anymore, right? Thrive obliterates all that for you. So by all means, please, if you haven't grabbed it, please grab it through my affiliate link. Hopefully I have earned that honor by providing you a ton of value and lots of knowledge bombs. But that is it for this series, Creating Pages That Pop. Thank you for letting me be part of your journey, letting me show you this exciting shit, and do not be shy. If questions come up, pop those in the comments below or stalk me down over at the Solopreneur Society and tag me with your question. I am here and happy to help. Now it's time to get your Thrive on. Later.